Hi, thanks for joining me this morning. I am actually not at my ranch, obviously. We are in Pennsylvania at Herm place. And I don't know if you follow his channel. It's Herm Gailey, Lifetime with Horses. And we have been talking a lot over the last couple of years, and this is actually the first time that we met. I came up here to do a clinic in Maryland this coming up weekend, and set up to just kind of talk and hang out. And really, the plan for today is for us to just kind of talk horse stuff. Sat here and ate breakfast a few minutes ago, and I think we did the first live right there at the table. So we'll try to cover some of that stuff. If hopefully you can hear me. I didn't have Melinda here to set up all the sound, and I had to do it myself. So of course that took several tries. Uh, you want to say anything, Herm?
Oh, you're doing just fine. You're used to doing these solo.
So I think Herm said this is the first time he's done anything live, and as you know, all mine are very informal. I talk, I say what's in my mind. So there's nothing scripted. We just talk. And if you have any questions you want to ask us, I think there's quite a few people out there that actually follow both of our channels. And our styles are similar. There's a few differences, but they're similar. That might be something we talk about. It's kind of what's similar and what's different. We both used to show reining horses pretty heavy, and then since then I've gone a little more of the cow horse direction. He's gone more of the ranch riding direction, but it all plays off of each other. A lot of the horses that I used to show and he used to show are bred really similar. And we walked out in his barn and this morning and talked about the horses that he has, and a lot of them is bred similar to the stuff I've worked. And he's got some Hancock horses in there. We're gonna talk
Exactly
got
one.
one. So a lot of you that follow me kind of know what I think about Hancock horses, and they are good ones. They're just not for me. And I think Herm.
This has been a good horse, but there have been a few challenges.
There has been a few challenges. There's usually a few challenges, and there are good ones out there. They don't fit me and what I do. It's just like any horse out there. There's no bad horse. You just have to find the right place for that horse.
And sometimes that happens to be in France.
And sometimes that happens to be in France. Sometimes it's just not my pasture. Sometimes it's somewhere else. But we got any questions yet? Nothing yet. Okay.
One person just said loving having you two together.
Oh, thank you.
We're enjoying it too.
We are enjoying it too. This is yesterday when I got here is the first time we met in person. I'm staying here with him for the clinic this weekend, and we're gonna go after this. We're gonna go ride some horses, and we'll try to get a little bit of video of that and see how that goes. Herm did a video talking about which horse he's going to take to the clinic this weekend.
We're going to do a reveal.
And we're going to do a reveal. We sure will. We'll let you know which horse he's taking.
And since I've got the tiebreaker here, because I asked you folks, which horse to take, and boy, it's really close to a dead heat.
Close to a dead heat?
And well, I think I know which way Tim's going to go, because one of the two horses is a Hancock.
I figured you'd take the Hancock just to see what I did with it. You got a question?
We have a question. Actually, two people commented saying, what is the topic of the clinic?
The topic of the clinic is going to, most all of my clinics gear from a horse training vision. So we're going to see the horses that are there. I'll see the horses that are there, and we're going to advance each one of the horses and each one of the riders. There's going to be a wide variety. There'll be some English horses, some Western horses. We'll talk about some basic horsemanship as far as hand control, leg control, body control of the horse, and advancing the horse, whether it's a dressage horse, a jumping horse, a reining horse, and just bring the horse along. That's really, anytime I'm working a clinic, working with people, I look at it from the point of view of the horse. What can we do to make the horse better? And that's how I address it. And there's always a big wide variety in my clinics, and I don't have this regimented do this thing, do that thing, do that thing. I just kind of adapt to the horse. And sometimes I might have this horse over here doing one thing and that horse over there doing another thing, and just trying to. You've done a couple clinics. How do you usually structure yours?
To me, it's kind of do what's necessary that day for that horse
exactly,
or that rider. You know,
exactly.
sometimes you'll see somebody got their equipment on the wrong,
right,
and it's as simple as saying, "Hey, your chin chain attaches here, not
instead
here."
of there,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And sometimes it's riders that are nervous, they haven't done anything in public, and you just give them a simple task to do to start building their confidence and getting them moving, and just go from there.
But one of the things we talked about when we were off camera, and I'm going to seem like I have Alzheimer's or something because I'm going to repeat a lot of things that I thought were worthwhile, is the sort of tendency of some of the sort of big box clinicians to have a cookbook. And sometimes it's a really good cookbook,
right?
But it doesn't take into account what the ingredients are.
It really doesn't. It doesn't take into account what the riders are, what the horses are, and both Herm and I, we both gear towards horses are going to show, compete, going to do something. It might be trail, competitive trail riding, something. So we're always looking from that point of view. Big box clinicians, they just they come in and have their regimented program, and that's what they do.
And what is the general level of the clinic attendees?
As far as the level of the clinic attendees, it's going to be a wide variety. I'll find out when I get there. Like at the last clinic I did, I had a rider that was pretty worried about a horse, a beginner rider. I actually think she'd only been riding a few months, and I believe she was in her 50s, and so she was a very beginner. And then I had a lady with a very finished advanced cutting horse. So it's a real wide variety of riders, and just try to help everybody with where they're at that time. And to me, that's what it's about. It's helping the riders, helping the horses.
And that's why I'm there. You know, I don't really have a regular ground person here.
Mm-hmm.
And having a new set of eyes and knowing something different that might work. So I go to these things. When I go to a clinic, I just say I'm an absolute beginner.
Mm-hmm.
Absolute like that, like I barely rode a horse. Because if I go there with my agenda, then I should be putting on the clinic.
Right, and you're not going to pick up new stuff. And sometimes it just takes a set of eyes saying, hey, you're doing this thing, and you didn't even realize you're doing that thing.
Exactly. Did you know you were?
Yeah.
No, you didn't know.
When you turn right, you're leaning forward. You're dropping your right shoulder. And we all get in those habits. Even Raven will come out and she'll coach me, and she has a really good time doing that.
Oh, I believe payback time.
It is. It's payback time. But and actually a different set of eyes for say, hey, you're doing this thing, or hey, what about this? Have you ever tried this thing? And I kind of have my training program that I put horses through, and Herm has his program, and it's really good for us to bounce ideas off of each other because always picking up new things.
And what I found is, at least in the first several months or 6 months at least, it doesn't matter what the horse is going to do as his final career.
It really doesn't.
It's almost the same approach. You know,
it is.
If I'm starting a colt, they're going to go like they're going to be able to be handy. They're going to be able to give them the bridle. How can that not help you?
It helps any horse going in any direction.
And, I've had horses that maybe washed out as show horses that I sold for trail horses. Somebody's favorite trail horse because
exactly. The better you do for the horse, the better life. I like to think that I try to make every horse as good as I can make it, whether that's a world champion or a trail horse or whatever, just to make it as good as he can, so that it has as good as life as possible.
That horse has in it.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't put stuff in that isn't there, and that's a big mistake you see people doing. They'll point the wrong horse at the wrong career, or they'll point a horse that's going to go through 5th grade, try to give them a college education.
Exactly. And that's, I've always said that about training. A trainer cannot put anything in a horse that isn't there. All a trainer can do is bring up the things that they want to more of and kind of suppress back the things they don't want. And
the magic's in there. We're just the magicians.
That's it. That's it. We just do more of what we like.
Every horse I have goes out across country.
Yeah,
Early on, and we were lucky enough to have some country around here. You can really build one outside.
you can. I'm not where I can ride one out as much as I used to, but every horse that comes through my program works cows.
Yeah, and that's a job.
It's a job. That's it. And that's the whole key, is to give them a job, give them a purpose. It's like
even if it's a makeup job.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a kid. If they don't have a job, they're gonna get in trouble.
We got a snowy day. I drag hay bales around on my horses.
There you go.
And you could do it a lot quicker with the pickup.
but it's a job.
It
it's
gets
a job.
2 jobs done at once.
And I think a horse having a job really helps that horse's confidence, and I feel like they feel like they accomplished something.
Well, and it makes sense to them. A lot of
does.
the stuff we're doing, it's like we're speaking Polish.
Right. It don't make sense.
They don't speak it. And
exactly.
They speak the work language pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
What they did for millennia was they did actual jobs. They
Worked in a job.
Whether it was war or whether it was pulling a wagon or roping cattle out in the open, it made sense to them.
Right. It did. And to me, that's a big part of why I enjoy horses. And I hadn't mentioned it yet, but we have Herm's daughter Kim here working the camera and answering questions and reading out the questions. So that's here who's working the camera. So thank you, Kim, for doing all this. She normally does Herm's video and editing, and I think all of that.
Yes, and she's managed to remain resolutely off camera.
Yeah, she is. She is Herm's right hand, like Melinda is my right hand.
But she shows in the ranch riding, and we had a real pleasant local reining association, basically maybe 3 states worth.
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of transitioned to that away from NRHA a few years back, and it was kind of like going back 30 years in terms of everybody was friends and everybody was trying to survive.
Trying to survive and help. Yeah, it's really fun going to shows like that.
Every Saturday night we'd have a picnic.
Mm-hmm.
It was just nice.
A lot of the ranch shows we go to, the Louisiana Stock Horse Association shows that we go to, they're really enjoyable like that. And it's nothing like breed shows. Everybody thinks of breed shows, and I think that any event that you're going to introduce, that you're working a job, an actual job, or you introduce a cow, or you introduce something like that, it kind of, you never know when that cow is going to humble you.
I'd keep you humble, whatever. Yeah, or even just walking in trying to run around.
Exactly. And
you can have good.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you're not going to win a prize.
That's right. And just those shows, it's just everybody's enjoyable.
We have a question. How do each of you handle a first ride after a long break?
That I actually have a mare I should do as a video because she's coming back from an injury. But Tim, fire away. What do you do with a horse that's been off, say, for a year, a layup for a year?
For me, it's really going to depend on what the horse did before it was laid off, how much riding time it had,
and why it was laid
off. That's going to have a lot to do with it. If it was a horse that for just laid off for weather or something like that, or maybe the owner just couldn't ride it, I'm generally going to do almost like a quick restart and just make sure all the buttons are still there and the brain is still there. What you might do in a month for a brand new unstarted horse, I might do in 3 days. Yeah, that's generally how I would do it.
Yeah.
But if it's a restart after an injury, I might adjust that a little bit depending on what the injury was.
And the mare that I'm coming back with, she's 15 years old. She had some leg problems that hopefully she's passed. But I'll take her back to the round pen.
Yeah.
Move her around. Make sure she's sound. See if she wants to buck and play a little bit. I'm fairly tolerant of that once.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, then I'm really meticulous about conditioning horses, particularly if they're coming back from the soundness issue.
Me too, very much. A lot of the issues that I deal with horses that come in are because they're not fit. And
we have one advantage that you don't have in your area of Mississippi. Right now, actually, where we're sitting is higher than any point in the state of Mississippi. How's that for a fact?
That don't surprise me.
Yeah, 'cause I looked it up. I thought, well, we're at about 970 feet here, and the highest point in Mississippi is 807 feet.
And that's probably a long ways from me.
I think it is, because you're over on the coastal plain.
Yeah, I think
but we've got hills.
Yeah, y'all
And
got
then
hills. We
after
don't
the
have
last
any
hill,
hills.
there's another hill.
That's right. All we have is sand.
You can really condition one. You
Yeah.
can really condition one.
Yeah, we don't have any hills.
We have a couple things. Your sister did a super chat.
Okay, thank you.
And,
Do I get to keep that?
Sure.
She gives $5. She doesn't want it to go to you.
All the electricity I use charging all that stuff up, I probably owe it to you.
And we have a couple different questions. We have one just asking, where are you right now? For those who didn't see the video.
Okay, so we are at Herm Gailey's house in Pennsylvania. What town are we in?
We're right outside of the little town of Winterstown. It's one of the few townships around where you can't buy a loaf of bread. You know, and we like it that way.
Yeah, I bet so.
And then we have a couple other more in-depth questions. The first one is from Pamela. Is it really possible to get a horse that will buck occasionally to stop that?
What are your thoughts on that?
The answer to that is always, it depends.
It depends.
Every single time. But if you can find out why the horse is bucking every now and again and work on the reason of what sets him off, you got to fight a chance.
You got a chance. The way I approach that is, I believe that too. It depends. Sometimes you can fix that, but a lot of it's going to depend on the owner and the rider as far as what you can tolerate. And if you're a 70-year-old rider that wants to spend the next 10 years trail riding, you might not want to deal with it. It might be more suitable for somebody else.
It depends how good they are.
It depends how. Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of depends in that, and
because some horses, they buck every once in a while and you can laugh about it.
Exactly.
And the next one, you take a deep seat in the faraway look and hope for the best.
Put your umbrella, pull your parachute before you hit the ground.
We have a question from Deb. I'm starting my first horse, a Mustang. He's checking off all the boxes to seem ready to be backed. My one concern is he stands like a statue. Sometimes I feel like he is only tolerating the training.
So for many years, people would say there's fight and there's flight. Mm-hmm. And then they added freeze to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a fourth one. There's fight, flight, freeze, and figure. Mm-hmm. There's some horses sit there thinking things through, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I've got a gelding now that when he stops and puts his head up, because he's a high-necked horse anyway, you think, oh, he's going to jump out of his skin. No, he's just figuring out what to do to keep from jumping out of his skin.
Mm-hmm.
The next horse will do the same thing, send you almost the same signal, and to them, they're scared and they're going to blow up. And with a young horse that's standing like a statue, I'd be worried that he was frozen in place and the first move might be a big one.
I would be worried about that too, especially being a Mustang.
She had an add-on saying, how do I know when he is ready for me to get on?
That's one of those things where you have to be there to say.
You pretty much do. And sometimes I just say today's got to be the day. But you have to know that you've taught all the pieces.
Or you find a neighborhood kid that you really don't like that much.
Yeah, son-in-law. and that's kind of a gut thing and an experience thing. And those kind of things, when I'm not sure, that's when I go get Bob out the pasture. And I've got a little bit of an advantage there. Yeah. And
good pony horse is
a good pony horse. And when you have a horse that freezes like that, good pony horse helps a lot.
Yeah, even if you're not hooked up, sometimes just having that other horse to coach him through
helps him a lot. Mm-hmm. It does, and that's a hard thing to read without being there. And sometimes it's as much a guess and trial and error as it is a confident read.
Big thing I would look for might be, okay, he freezes, move him and see what he does. And if he just relaxes and walks off, you're okay. If every time he moves, he's got a knot in his back, you need to back up a couple of steps. And
And then we have a question saying, Good morning. Could you talk about a plan when training and then being able to completely change that plan on a dime when your plan gets punched in the nose?
Well, I think he just said it, didn't he? Or he or she.
Yeah.
Because I've found if I go into a session with an agenda, it better be flexible.
It better be flexible. Everything has to be flexible. And sometimes as we're progressing horses through training to go towards whatever the end goal is, we know there's certain things that the horse needs to learn. It's kind of like going through school, and you learn this piece and then you learn that piece. And there's certain things we know needs to progress, but sometimes it's just not a good day, and we might end up just walking and trotting around and putting the horse up for that day.
We have one end of our ring that's scary.
Mm-hmm.
And the woods is up there, and the trees are creaking, and we got a gate up there that swings a little bit. Then when it's tied open, and a disproportionate number of horses get a little bit scared up there.
That.
Every so often, I'll get one that's so petrified that it's all he's thinking about. So maybe the only thing you do the whole ride is to get him to where he's comfortable with going up there, standing, and taking a deep breath.
Yeah, I think that's really good.
And then when that happens, a squirrel farts in the woods and you get bucked up.
And it's really funny because the end of my all the horses are afraid of is the gate that we come in.
That's almost a blessing.
It is. Yeah, they all want to go to the other end. So it's kind of odd. I don't know why they're afraid of the end.
But there's always a scary side. It's just a question of how scary.
Of how scary and which side. And sometimes if they're really scared, we just ride on the other end for a little while.
Yeah, and then let them stand up there and rest.
And look, and stand there and rest. Exactly.
But you might have gone out there thinking you were going to lope right and left circles on opposite ends of the ring, and you can't get to the other end.
You can't get to the other end. That's exactly.
That becomes part of the deal.
You have to adapt. But the other side of that to me and adapting is you have to. If you find yourself doing that too often, you might be trying to take too many steps too quick.
Yeah.
And 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. You might be in that position. You need to make sure you're working in little bitty pieces every day, and that shouldn't happen as often. Some horses just have more of a tendency to. It's a new world every time they wake up than other horses.
Well, you barely go wrong going back to a basic, because I don't know that there's any advanced training. It's just doing the best.
Doing the basics, yeah. You rarely go wrong there, and really, a lot of the younger trainers, they want to get to this big end stuff. Really, the trainers like us,
result oriented.
Exactly. We spend a lot of time just doing basics,
and then all of a sudden you realize they're broke.
Mm-hmm.
We have a spooky horse question from Amber. What are your thoughts on a horse who acts spooky or silly, maybe even bratty, to get out of work? My thoughts were there were holes in the foundation as far as respect.
Yeah, or else you just have one of the. I mean, it's not popular to say, but some horses are just more looky and more shattery.
Some are more looky. A lot of the cow horse bred horses are more looky. I think this is actually a more common thing now than it used to be years ago, because there's so many people trying to pet horses broke and feed them cookies to get them broke, and I think horses just like they learn to do this thing to release the pressure, just like you pick up your left rein to steer left to release the pressure, they steer and you release the pressure. Some of them learn they jump in the air and you back up. And they learn that.
You reassure them, and that's a little bit easier than working.
Yeah. So
discipline isn't a 4-letter word.
It's discipline. It's not a 4-letter word. And I have a video where I'm working a spooky Mustang, and my thing is I like to keep their feet moving. If a horse is going to spook, if I'm trotting this direction, generally if he's going to spook, it's going to be less of a spook, and I can manage it a little bit better. Where if you have a horse that's worried about this thing and you stop and let him look at that thing, you don't know where you're going.
You don't know which side of the chute he's going to come out.
Exactly.
She said that this particular horse was a Halflanger quarter horse cross.
There's nothing in that would suggest spooky. But to go figure.
Not normally. And but the thought of doing a behavior to not work kind of sounds like a Halflanger.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You got a super chat from Laura.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you.
We have We have another comment from Judy just saying, really enjoying seeing the two of you together. Heard Tim mention Herm's channel on one of his videos, and I've learned so much from both of you.
Thank you. Thank you for
And,
watching.
We have a question from Ty Cox. Tim or Herm, what do you do if you feel upset and frustrated with your personal horsemanship?
Do you drink? And I don't think there's anybody who hasn't gone through that, and I don't think there is anybody who completely gets over it.
Yeah, you never.
So
You're
welcome to the
always.
club.
Yeah, in fact, I don't know
If you're
if
self-satisfied, you're probably finished.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm always fixing things. I'm bad about slouching forward. My posture is not great, and there's always something.
Yeah.
Always something to fix. So I think it isn't. I think you just have to not get as frustrated about it and just keep working on improving.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever going to be perfect.
And get somebody you can bounce your frustration off instead of, those things get worse in solitary confinement.
It's true. Exactly. I think that's part of being a good horseman, really.
Yeah. And frustration usually means maybe you've hit the end of what your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you don't let it get on top of you, it just means you're progressing.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
So welcome to the frustration.
Yeah, we're always working on something like that.
Nothing new yet.
Okay. All right. What did we talk about this morning at the table? We said we needed to bring back up.
There were some things, and of course we made
We do have a question then after you.
Okay.
We have from Pamela. How did you both get started?
Well, we came different directions.
Definitely came from different directions.
You go first, because we're like, if you took Tim's life and stood it upside down, it would be mine, and if you stood mine upside down, it would be Tim's.
Yeah. So I never rode a horse till I was 15 years old. I don't think I even touched a horse till I was 15. And I was dating a girl that always wanted to go horseback riding, so I learned to ride to go on the date. And riding was just a pleasure thing. And I never could afford to buy a good horse, so I had to learn how to make him better. And I accidentally lost my non-pro card and had to go pro and then really work at getting better. And I always had a regular job until, I guess, 20 years ago when I started training full time. I didn't want to be a horse trainer while I was raising my kids. I wanted to make sure I had steady income. So I always had a full-time job, rode horses on the side, and then when my kids was grown, I went full-time. And love it.
And I came at it from the exact opposite perspective. I got a pony. My dad was a horse guy. He had been getting his medical training, came back here to town to practice, and as soon as they could get things figured out, they bought a farm, and part of the farm, first Christmas, was a pony for me and a pony for my sister.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody thought ponies were going to be the perfect child's companion.
Yeah, it doesn't work out that way.
Neither of these two things were broke, and my sister was only about 5 years old. I was 9, I think, 8 or 9. And my dad says, well, here's the bad news. Your pony's too young to ride. The good news is your sister's isn't, and she's too little to ride it, so it's your job.
There you go.
So the first thing I had, and this is absolutely the wrong way to introduce a child to horses, was trying to get my pony halter broke and the other pony broke to ride. And the worse it got, the more intrigued I got.
Uh-huh.
So I stuck with that and got to riding, horses and shows.
You stepped up to the challenge. It's been really easy to just say, I don't ever want to touch a horse.
Well, and that happens too often. I always, when I meet somebody and I say that I have horses, they say, well, we used to ride. And then you hear the horror story.
Yeah, I rode once.
And then I look at my life and it is the horror story, and I just didn't care.
That's it. And yeah.
So I graduated from college with a degree in English and realized nobody was going to pay me to read books the rest of my life. So I'd been training horses on the side through college, and I worked for a couple of trainers. And so I just sort of did a little remake on our barn and started taking in outside horses. Did that for about 4 or 5 years. And our climate being what it is and not having an indoor facility, about 3 months of the year, I'd just shut down and go somewhere. And I could, ride with somebody and learn or travel. And it was not a great way to make a living, but it was a pretty great life.
Pretty good life, pretty educational life, riding with a bunch of different people like that.
But about 4 or 5 years into it, I'm coming up on another winter, and I thought, well, I ought to explore other options. So I saw an ad for the LSAT for the law school. And I thought it was the law school aptitude test. I thought, well, I'm going to see if I got an aptitude for this stuff. Well, unknown to me, it was the law school admission test. And I went in, these guys were saying, well, where did you take your course? I said, I didn't take any course. I just read the stuff they sent me. And I think partly because I was loose and I had studied up that stuff, I ended up doing real well and got into a good school and went on to do that. And so
I did that on accident.
So I sort of moved out of the full-time horse thing, but it was probably 5 years into my legal career. Well, the whole way through law school, I rode outside horses in the summers. And then when I came back here to practice, probably 5 years till I could make a living practicing law. So the horses more than paid for themselves. Little by little, I transitioned into just riding my own horses. So unlike you, I didn't have my non-pro card, but then I did get it back.
Then you did get it back, yeah, and I had mine and lost it. I really didn't intend on turning pro.
We got a lot in common, but not that their backgrounds are totally different.
Yeah, very different.
We have a super chat from Deb.
Thank you, Deb.
Yeah, thank you.
And we have a couple more questions. Well, Angela commented saying, your calm demeanor is why I start each day with a video from one or both of you.
I have several husbands that say they wake up to me in their house every morning. Not sure how I feel about that.
Laura said, explain your biggest learning moment from a wreck you had while training.
Well, I don't know about biggest because I've had so many wrecks and so many.
I think probably the biggest learning moments I have from wrecks is learn where not to be.
Yeah.
Years
ago, I went to a couple of Ray Hunt clinics, and then a friend of mine went to another one I couldn't get to. And talk about wrecks and learning moments. There was a pudgy gal there with an Appaloosa that was real green. Now that's sort of not the best combination. And Ray had a habit of telling me things one time. It would be very clear, but he'd say it one time. He had people getting on with a halter and a single lead rope. He said, have it on the side you're getting on, not the opposite side.
Right.
Well, this gal got on this horse. The horse moved. She snatched its face on the opposite side where she left her rope. The horse caved over on her. She hit the ground and knocked herself out. Now, these old crusty guys, they're not real concerned with somebody just lying there for a while. So Ray reportedly rides up and says, now, let's talk about what she done wrong. So that wasn't my learning moment, but that's not the way you want to learn.
That's not the way you want to learn. No. I think I had a pretty near bad wreck one time. I was starting a big halter bred horse for Brett Favre, actually, and bucked me off. And usually when a horse is trying to buck me off, I try to get some clearance and I try to go over to the side. And this horse just dumped me right in front of him. And I got on my back and I look up and his 4 feet are right here, just about to come on top of me. And I was able to roll over quick enough to get out of the way. That was just about a bad wreck.
Well, I got to sit here a minute and quit twitching, because you don't like hearing that. And I tell you one thing I learned, and maybe some of the folks that are listening can relate to this. It's hard for me to accept, but with every birthday, I lose a step. And I had enough steps. Had enough steps I could lose a few, but it's hard to keep track of. And last winter I was riding a horse out across country, and he was going along pretty good, but he'd been a little on edge. Looking back, I probably should have warmed him up a little different. And he ducked out from underneath me, and I busted a bunch of ribs and was laid up for a while. And I thought, boy, you really need to know where you are
It's very valuable. I know I'm nowhere near as physically strong as I used to be.
Yeah, and my balance isn't what it was.
Neither
It
am
used
I.
to be I felt like I was pretty sticky, and if things went crooked, I could always go with the physical.
Mm-hmm.
But if you lose a little bit of physical, you probably ought to start thinking a little more.
Yeah, and I think as we get older, I think we ride a little smarter. Try to ride a little smarter.
I've got a little more ground shy over the years.
That's why I say the ground is your best friend. It'll catch you every time you fall.
Yeah.
We have a question from Personal Triumph Equestrian saying, I asked you the other day about serviceably sound horses that may not be a 100% sound, but it's a chronic issue. Do you ride that horse? And then somebody also asked about, can you also talk about mechanical unsoundness?
You know, I consider myself serviceably sound.
Me too. Yeah.
And I'm willing to ride a horse that maybe has, as this person put it, a mechanical problem that isn't hurting them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is where this big mare my wife's, and I'm going to restart a little, is she's not as regular as you'd like her when she trots.
Mm-hmm.
But she's out in the pasture trotting around. I suspect she's going to stay at one level.
Mm-hmm.
My rule is if they're getting worse, you got a problem.
They're getting worse, you got a problem. And a lot of horses that, depending on what the issue is, the worst thing you can do is quit riding them.
Yep.
So it really depends on the horse, and generally, I know I've got one in the barn that's 25, got some navicular, got some little other health issues that we've tried to retire a couple times, and every time we did, it got worse. So she still gets rode. So I think it's real important for a horse that has some soundness issues to keep moving, doing something. You just have to adjust according to that particular horse.
Yeah, and there's some of them that are in pain and that aren't really safe to ride.
Exactly.
And my dad always said, you may think that old crippled horse is safe, but they're damn sure fall off.
Yeah, that's right. I had one go down on me just last week. Lazy.
I think your mic may have I don't know if it may have gotten pushed off, but it seemed to cut for a second.
I just crossed my legs too. Fish it out here.
Tim, we have a hello from Norway.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I don't see my
your light's not on.
Blue light. There it is. You got me back.
Now we're back.
Battery
so what wisdom did we all miss?
We might keep it out so we can watch the light. We might have to check. It's blinking red. Let me get you some new batteries. Let's see.
I think this was planned.
Yeah, it was planned to leave you on camera by yourself.
Dad, you might. Well, I guess anybody would want to answer. They also asked, Personal Triumph Equestrian also asked, why do you think there are such few men doing horse stuff compared to women?
Whoa.
That's a loaded question.
Yeah.
And I only got one battery.
I have more upstairs.
You got some double A? Okay.
So you guys talk.
Am I still getting sound? It's just starting to go
Yeah,
funky.
you were close enough that you could hear. So there's a question of why do you think there are such few men doing horse stuff compared to women? And then there's a question about, could you talk about the business side of training horses, hiring people, taxes, getting customers, etc.
And I'm going to defer to Kim because the reason I'm not training horses is because I was so bad at the business side of training horses.
Tim, is it double A?
Yeah, double A. Yep. As far as not as many women trainers, but a lot of women riders.
Well, and not as many men doing it.
Not as many. Yeah.
I put on a clinic last year, and I think there was 15 people there, and there was 2 men.
Yeah, that's about the ratio I usually see too.
Made me a big fan of women because without women there'd be no horse business around here.
Well, I always tell these young men, if you want to find a girl, go get in the horses. Your light went off. I think we might have lost you. So if you can hear me and not Herm, we're getting Herm some new batteries. I charged them last night.
I maybe picked up on your mic a bit too.
Maybe so.
And I'm pretty loud, so
I just pull a little. 2. There you go.
And you have one.
Yeah. No, I don't have my glasses on. I can't see which way to put it in.
Oh no, I'm probably on camera.
And you said you weren't going to get on camera.
There we go.
Whoop. Oh, I got
a beautiful blue light.
There we go.
Yeah,
we're
good.
back. So I wonder if anybody even heard that answer.
I think I may be picking up on your mic.
Able to hear.
Oh, hear some of him through my. Okay.
Your sister also said you couldn't put the mic between you two on the couch.
That's true. Then they couldn't hear either of us, and everybody'd be happy, right?
Yeah. Well, if we have that problem again, we'll probably do that.
Did you answer both of those questions?
No, we didn't really answer the business
And
side.
the why so few men? I don't have an answer to that. It's perplexed me. And you were about to say that there's something wrong with young guys for not picking up on the fact
exactly.
that there's a ton of very nice, active, attractive young women riding horses.
Yeah. And if I was in my 20s, I'd start riding. Might even start riding English. That's where all the women are, and there's plenty of them. I don't know. I really don't have an answer for that.
I mean, there's still a fair number of guys doing it at a high level.
Yeah.
But the more entry level and recreational people, we go down to ride trail ride in Fair Hill, Maryland, and you'll see just trailer loads of gals coming in, and every once in a while I'll see a guy, and usually it's an older guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have one man that I coach, and the rest of them's all women and girls.
We have another question. Tim or Herm, is it still and always feel, timing, and balance?
It's hard to get away from that.
It's hard to get away from that. That's a big part of it. I think feel is probably the biggest one.
And balance is different from your physical balance. Some of it is keeping the horse in balance.
Yeah. Yeah. Feel is
the part that the sort of cookbook can't address.
Mm-hmm. I did a couple videos on feel, and I broke it down to a couple different parts about how to develop feel. And I had to look back through my notes. I don't remember exactly how I broke it all down, but it really, feel is a big part.
And when you start to think what they're going to do next, things really change for the better. When you're thinking one step ahead instead of playing catch up all the time.
Exactly. And it goes back into, or it goes into, you want to reward when the horse does the right thing. But if you can reward when the horse thinks about the right thing, that's really when you're on the right
just
page.
makes the right gesture.
Yeah.
If they just lean a better direction, sometimes you're better off saying thanks.
Yeah, exactly. Just that little piece.
Yeah. So I think field timing and balance. It's hard to sum things up in 3 words, but that's as good as any.
That's as good as any. Yeah. It really, a lot of it goes back to that. Now, as far as the business side, I grew up in a family business, and that's just how what things that just come natural to me. People go to college to learn, and so I listened to some business management books and stuff, but really the business part I just grew up in.
One real challenge that I was very aware of, and I'm sure this hasn't changed, is the fact that when you're training horses for people, you're doing it as a business, and it's their passion. They love doing it, and they'll want to come and visit with you for 3 hours, which it's not that you're unfriendly, but those 3 hours are 3 hours you're not riding somebody else's horse.
And that's very true. That is something that I kind of struggle with some of my clients, and I try to have regular business hours, and for me it's a big deal to have work and home separated. I know a lot of trainers live where they train or live close to where they train, and I live about 40 minutes away.
Do you really?
Yeah, and I don't want to live at work. Now I got cameras. I can pull up cameras and look at what's going on.
Is there anybody on site when you're not there, or you just sort of monitor things?
I monitor with the cameras.
Yeah, and having that capacity has changed things, because growing up, if you had a mare that was going to foal, you were up every hour walking to the barn.
Yeah.
Or sleeping at the barn.
I had one that was turned out. It's been a few months ago. It was a yearling and cast himself, turned out, and saw it on the camera and went and helped him out, rolled him over. So it really, to me, even though I'm not right there, it's almost like the best of both worlds. I got really burned out quite a few years ago and almost quit training horses completely because I was living where I was training. I'd wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning thinking about a horse and something I'd want to try, and I'd go outside and turn the lights on and ride at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I needed that separation.
And if you're doing that because you're intrigued and you can't, you know, every once in a while I'll get on a roll where, you know, I'll look at my watch and it's 11:30 at night and I didn't eat dinner yet.
Mm-hmm.
That's good if you get there naturally, but if you're driving yourself to get there, it's
not good. It's not good. So you have to run it like a business, and for me, I have to run it like a 9-to-5 job, really, just to keep myself in a good place.
So Tim, you train all different kind of horses.
Yeah.
And you know, the rest of the world has gotten really specialized. And it's something we talked about. What do you think is gained and lost when the world gets so focused on a given event with horses bred for that event, trained just for that event, versus the kind of background? Because every time I mention something, you'll say, yeah, I fox hunted a little bit, or yeah, I had a Paso Fino. And I'm sort of similar. I started out thinking there was nothing you could do with the horse I didn't want to try.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people have this laser focus on, I want to show a reining horse in the NRHA and I want to go to the big shows, or, you know, I want to be number one in something else. What do you think is the trade-off?
I really think you lose a lot of just good horsemanship because, and like the top end futurity horses, a lot of people don't realize those horses are not trained like weekend warrior reining horses. They have specific regiment. They're not broke as good.
They got to be retooled before you turn them over to
exactly. They got to be redone because they're trained for that event, and the trainer is working for that event. So you get kind of locked into that program, and that's what you do. And I think you lose some just all around horsemanship there. And a lot of the horses I get in, I got a Paso Fino in now. I'm working on Fino and Corto.
It's been a pretty successful show horse. It
was a good, successful show horse. I actually used to own a Paso Fino and showed a little bit.
And the horse that you have on your videos looks like she wants to be a nice horse.
She does. She wants to be good.
Sort of trying too hard.
Yeah, that's really all she's doing. She's trying to do what she was taught to do, and it kind of goes back to that futurity thing. They're trained for that event and not really anything else, and that's kind of what her issue is. She was trained to show that, and not really anything else. And I think a lot of horses just mentally can't handle that, and I think trainer wise, just lose a lot of good horsemanship that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to think that you could take it from soup to nuts. You know, even if you're not breeding these horses, I love to buy these weanlings and kick them out, bring them in, do some stuff with them, kick them back out, and do the whole process through their whole life. You know, it's just real rewarding to think, okay, this thing, I know where all the bones are buried. If it's good, okay, I'll give the horse a little bit of credit and take the rest for myself. But if it's bad, it's on me.
Well, that's what they say. If it was a good horse, it was a good horse. If it was a bad horse, it's a bad trainer.
Yeah.
We have a comment saying, as a 70-year-old professional jumper trainer, I really appreciate your discussion of waning physical abilities. It's tough to accept that you can't do what you once took for granted.
Amen.
Yeah, definitely. As you get older, you just have to adjust it. And I don't think it's all bad. I think some of it's good.
The problem is you don't want to get below your skill level, but you don't want to be above it and get yourself in a jam.
Exactly.
And boy, all of a sudden you got a wake-up call that you're not where you thought you were.
And some days that isn't the same today. That might be a different place than tomorrow or yesterday.
And then for you, Dad, have you written any horsemanship books?
No.
And question from Laura, how do you handle show pressure?
I just sit there and quietly digest my own stomach lining.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just getting in the arena a lot. You just got to show a lot, and
you got to have a routine.
Exactly, routines
and
are
you
big.
don't change the program when you go to the horse show.
Exactly, and you have, like you said, you got to ride at the show just like you ride at home.
Don't get caught up on what somebody else is doing in the warm-up pen.
Yeah, and I like personally in the go order, I like to go early. I really don't want to watch all the runs because I want
to.
Yeah, and you see that good run and you think, man, I want to. If I push a little harder, I might could beat that horse. And you need to ride your run. I won the Dixie National Freestyle going in first. I was the first run and won it first.
Yeah. And you probably derailed a lot of people who then thought that was pretty good. We got to beat it.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that happened a lot.
I mean, if you go in first and you lay the glove down, here's where it is. That can really put a lot of pressure on the next guy.
It can, and that's why I don't like riding late in the draw.
My problem with going first is sometimes the judges are getting warmed up, especially if it's early in the show.
Yeah,
but the good judges, and it's an objective system.
It's and like the gooder, we won't edit that out, obviously. The better NRHA judges, I don't think you have that problem too much.
I think they are remarkably consistent. I mean, the NRHA judging system, I think, is probably the best objective system.
I think so too. I think so. Have you been to any of their judging schools?
No, I thought about going, not so much because I wanted to get a card, but just
I've been to their school. Really, really good. NRHA has
I got their tapes.
NRHA has some maneuver tapes, and that maneuvers, spin, slides, what is what. Really good videos. If you thinking about showing reining, you can look at those videos, but it really applies to more than just reining because it'll show you, it'll talk about the maneuver and what is good about the maneuver, what is not, and really that applies across the board no matter what you're showing.
And things that people often don't think of, they'll have a horse just drag his backside and stop, but they don't stop to think about how he got there.
Exactly.
The horse starts running around halfway around the end and then just flips his head up and runs off, and then he stops
and it stops big. Yeah.
Well, the stop's only part of the maneuver.
The judging for one maneuver starts as soon as the last maneuver ended, and you're judging that whole piece. A lot of people don't realize that, and
they get intoxicated by the one thing that stands out.
Exactly. As soon as you go in the pen, you're being judged, and you judge until the last maneuver ends. And that NRHA school is good. The NRCHA school is good. I actually went to an open judging school, just something the state of Mississippi put on. That was probably a really good judging school, probably one of the best ones I went to.
Tell you what else is I've never done this, but it is a real opportunity, is scribing for a good judge.
When
you're marking their cards, because they have to watch and can't write. And a lot of times they'll say, well, that would have been a but for, and you get, you also are concentrating on the run like a judge would.
Right. Look at it. Because you look at it, you sit there with the judge, you do look at things a little different.
I mean, when I was starting to show reiners, it was before the judging system. And you'd get judges who just got caught up in the really cool stuff a horse did, or one mistake became huge and it wasn't objective at all.
Right.
And you drag a hind lead for 2 strides and you were done. Or you drag a hind lead halfway around the circle and it wouldn't matter.
Right.
Depending on the judge. And now there's specifics.
Now it's really specific.
I think your mic is now.
Well, that's out. Now we know how long the battery is. You got 2 more?
I do. I have a bunch.
I charged them last night, but I guess they didn't charge very good.
We're just talking too much, Tim.
That's what it is.
This is a real opportunity because I can talk and he can't.
There you go. Oh, I can't say it. That's like by the time we're done, I've used up all my words for the day.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to have a silent afternoon, I think.
We do have a couple questions. How many hours a week should a horse be written to keep them skilled?
That's another good what if.
Skilled versus fit, too.
Yeah.
Because you can grind on a horse, and I think you insult the horse's intelligence when you keep telling them things they already know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm really big on, at a certain point in a horse's training, you got to stop training.
Start
riding, and just kind of let it soak in and just ride.
And if you go out and lope a circle, you'll feel where the leaks are.
If
you have to go someplace else to fix it, you say, well, he's sort of dropping his shoulder. I bet his turnaround's going to have a problem too.
Exactly. And a lot of that with a finished horse is more about fitness than it is the maneuver. Usually a trained horse, I rarely work a maneuver. Before I go show, I might lope a couple pieces of patterns to put it together, but
sequence it.
Yeah, but it's really all about fitness. So, and how often, to me, really depends a lot on the horse.
And some horses get amnesia.
Yeah.
And I've had some horses that you really thought you had put together, but you almost need to give them a refresher course every so often. And other ones, sometimes the hardest ones to train remember it the best.
They remember the bad as good as they remember the good. Mm-hmm.
Are you passing along your skills to an apprentice?
You definitely.
Yeah, I've got Raven.
She's
you've
here.
Seen her in a bit. Yeah. She's here with us. She goes everywhere I go, and she's a heck of a hand with a horse. She's going to be good. I don't know. You said you have a girl.
I've got a young gal who her mom started bringing her over here just to ride with me when she was about 9 years old, and I couldn't get rid of her.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my mark that she was going to be okay, because usually I kind of think of myself as being easygoing, but I tend to run a lot of kids off because I'll put them on something maybe I shouldn't, or I'll expect them to step up and do something that maybe they can't. And this kid just said, "Yeah, I can," and she's ended up being successful, and she's shown in the NRHA, and she's won a 4-H state championship or 2 or 3. And and she's not a kid that comes from a silver spoon. She's from a farm family. They work hard. She works hard, and she just got the bug.
Yeah, she's going to end up being a hand,
and she can do an awful lot. Yeah.
And in my experience, like I've coached a lot of kids that went on to show at colleges and stuff, and really the ones that didn't ride the best horses throughout their career really did the best,
because the playing field's dead level. None of the horses are worth a damn.
Yeah, when you ride for college, they're pretty much all equally bad. Yeah. And if you've only ridden good horses, you struggle a little bit.
We have a question from Lisa. I have a question about reconditioning a horse after a major surgery. The surgery in question is colic surgery. The horse is my trail and extreme cowboy racing obstacle horse. The horse is on a 90-day rehabilitation schedule per the vet hospital and not released to ride for 90 days. How long do you think I should build back up before being able to comfortably pushing him back to competitive racing?
I'd say at least another 90 days.
At least. I was thinking like 6 months.
Yeah, and that's probably true. You could start introducing some things after 90 days, but he's
going to be a while.
It's going to be a while.
And you're going to have to kind of watch him, and he's going to have to tell you.
And the vet's going to be a real resource for you.
The vet will be a good resource. And I have generally, when a horse has colic surgery, they never seem to come back to as good as they were. But I was involved with one that actually came back as good or better. So,
and I've never owned one that needed a surgery like that extreme.
Yeah, I had one of my students' horses actually had colic surgery, and I had seen the way I like to place horses with my students is we go to shows and see what's showing and we like, and we try to buy it there at the show. That's usually what we do. And this horse I've been following for like 2 or 3 owners, and it was a good maybe second step, third step horse, not a first horse, not a upper level, a good in between horse. So the kid kind of worked through that horse, and I had a student that was at that level, and I've been following him for several years. bought the horse or were in the process of buying the horse, and the owner had told us that he had had colic surgery when he was like 3 years old.
And he went through a whole career.
It went through his whole career like that. It never was an issue. And
Well,
really good horse.
And probably it speaks volumes about how well they did conditioning and stuff.
Probably so. I think that has a lot to do with it. And
so, yeah, it's going to be a long road back, but there's no reason it can't be successful.
That's right. And probably the longer you take it, the better off you're going to be. So I think we're close to an hour. You got anything you want to say closing?
No, I've enjoyed this. I don't
I
know
have
if I've
too.
talked for an hour straight in a long time, but I found I could do it.
Yeah, and actually, I'm not much of a talker, and I don't think Herm is either. You see our videos, and you get the impression that we like talking, and I've really had to learn how to talk. I'm not a talker.
I may be the least talkative lawyer that ever lived.
Yeah, probably a good thing. So I appreciate everybody for joining today. I appreciate the super chats, and I hope to do more of these and with some different people and get some good content. So until next time, thank you for watching.